cardboard box sat alone in the barren winter woods, just another piece of trash tossed aside in Philadelphia's Fox Chase neighborhood. But inside this particular box, on that frigid February morning in 1957, lay a horror that would haunt detectives for generations. The small, malnourished body of a young boy, curled fetal-like in death, his battered frame telling a silent story of unimaginable suffering. His identity would remain a mystery for 65 agonizing years, his case becoming one of America's most infamous unsolved child murders. This is the disturbing story of The Boy in the Box, a tale of forensic breakthroughs, shocking family secrets, and a victim finally given back his stolen identity. The discovery came on February 25th, 1957, when a college student named Frederick Banonis was checking his rabbit traps in a wooded area near Susquehanna Road. What he initially thought was a discarded appliance box contained an unthinkable sight: the nude body of a young boy estimated to be between 4 to 6 years old. The child's hair appeared to have been crudely hacked shortly before death, his frail body showing signs of severe malnutrition and multiple bruises in various stages of healing. The cardboard container had originally held a bassinet from J.C. Penney with a blue corduroy cap and a man's handkerchief with the letter G found nearby. Clues that would prove frustratingly useless in the decades to come. Philadelphia police descended on the scene, their initial horror giving way to grim determination as they processed the disturbing find. The medical examiner's report would reveal even more unsettling details. The boy had suffered massive, blunt force trauma to his head and body, with evidence of both recent and older injuries suggesting prolonged abuse. Most intriguing were several surgical scars, including one near the groin and another on the ankle, indicating the child had received medical care at some point. Yet despite these distinctive markers, no one came forward to identify him. It was as if this boy had never existed at all. With no missing persons reports matching the victim's description, investigators took the unprecedented step of releasing a post-mortem photograph to the public. The haunting image showed the boy cleaned up, his hair neatly combed, dressed in a suit as if merely sleeping. Newspapers across the country ran the photo alongside pleas for information, but the tips that poured in led nowhere. The lack of progress was baffling. In a major American city, how could a child simply vanish without anyone noticing? Detectives began to suspect the answer lay in the shadows of a broken family system, where abused children often fell through society's cracks. The first major lead came from an unlikely source, a mysterious woman known only as Martha. In 2002, nearly 45 years after the discovery, Martha came forward with a shocking claim. Her abusive mother had purchased the boy from his birth parents through an illegal adoption, then killed him when he became too much trouble. She provided disturbingly specific details about the boy's appearance and the circumstances of his death that matched known facts of the case. Investigators found her account credible enough to exhume the boy's body in 1998 for DNA testing, but the technology of the time couldn't provide conclusive answers. Martha's story, while compelling, remained just another dead end in a case full of them. Another promising theory focused on a nearby foster home, rumored to be a house of horrors for the children in its care. Located just a few miles from the dump site, the home had a reputation for severe discipline and suspicious child deaths. Detectives combed through records and interviewed former residents, but could never find concrete evidence linking the facility to the murdered boy. The foster home angle joined a growing list of red herrings that included traveling carnival workers, a local family with a missing son, and even a theory that the boy was a victim of a bizarre medical experiment. As years turned into decades, the case took on an almost mythical status in law enforcement circles. The unidentified victim was given a dignified burial in 1998 under a headstone reading America's Unknown Child, with Philadelphia homicide detectives serving as pallbearers in a moving tribute. But these same detectives refused to let the case die, periodically revisiting the evidence as forensic science advanced. Their persistence would finally pay off in ways no one could have anticipated when the case began in 1957. The breakthrough came through the revolutionary technique of investigative genetic genealogy, the same method that had cracked the Golden State Killer case in 2018. In November 2022, after painstaking work comparing DNA from the victim's exhumed remains against public genealogy databases, investigators made an astonishing discovery. They had finally identified the boy in the box as Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January the 13th, 1953, meaning he was just 4 years old when he met his brutal end. The revelation sent shockwaves through the true crime community. Joseph's identity had been hiding in plain sight all along, his name preserved on a birth certificate that no one had thought to connect to the case. Investigators revealed he came from a prominent Delaware County family, though they carefully avoided naming living relatives to protect their privacy. This discretion immediately sparked speculation. Was Joseph's death the result of a family cover-up? Had his own parents been involved? Or was his murder committed by someone else who had access to the child? Delving into Joseph's short life revealed more puzzling details. Birth records showed he had several siblings, yet none had ever come forward during the decades-long investigation. Even more mysteriously, no missing persons report had ever been filed for Joseph, suggesting his disappearance had either gone unnoticed or been deliberately concealed. The surgical scars noted in the original autopsy now made sense. Joseph had apparently undergone medical procedures at some point, meaning there should have been records of his existence. Yet somehow, this paper trail had eluded detectives for 6 decades. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw addressed the media in December 2022 with a carefully worded statement. For 65 years, the story of this innocent young boy has haunted this community. Today, we can finally call him by his name. But even as she spoke these words, investigators knew the hardest work still lay ahead. Identifying Joseph was a monumental breakthrough, but it didn't automatically reveal who had killed him or why. The few details released about Joseph's family background only deepened the mystery. Sources close to the investigation hinted at a complex family situation that might explain why Joseph wasn't reported missing. There were suggestions of multiple marriages, blended families, and possible custody disputes, the kind of tangled domestic circumstances that can sometimes obscure a child's whereabouts. Investigators remained tight-lipped about whether they had identified specific suspects, saying only that they were pursuing promising new leads based on Joseph's identity. Forensic experts not involved in the case have speculated about possible scenarios that could explain both the murder and the decades of silence. One theory suggests Joseph may have been secretly placed with abusive caretakers after his birth parents became unable or unwilling to care for him. A tragic but common occurrence in the 1950s when social services were far less developed. Another possibility is that Joseph was killed by a family member in a moment of rage, with the subsequent cover up aided by the era's lack of sophisticated missing persons tracking. The condition of Joseph's body when found tells its own grim story. The crude haircut suggests someone tried to alter his appearance post-mortem, perhaps hoping to delay identification. The decision to discard his body in a cardboard box rather than burying it properly implies the killer either panicked or had limited resources and time. The location itself is telling. Fox Chase in 1957 was semi-rural, suggesting the murderer likely had some familiarity with the area, but didn't live right nearby. As investigators work to piece together Joseph's final days, they face significant challenges. Many potential witnesses are now deceased, and memories from 1957 have undoubtedly faded. Physical evidence from the original investigation was preserved with remarkable care for the era, but may not meet modern forensic standards. The family members who could shed light on Joseph's short life may have their own reasons for remaining silent after all these years. Yet there is hope. The same genetic genealogy techniques that identified Joseph could potentially reveal his killer through distant familial DNA matches. Old case files are being re-examined with fresh eyes, looking for connections that might have been missed before Joseph's name was known. And perhaps most importantly, the public revelation of Joseph's identity may prompt someone with long-buried knowledge to finally come forward. For now, Joseph Augustus Zarelli's story remains incomplete. We know his name, his birth date, and the brutal way he died, but the full truth of what happened to him in those final terrifying moments and why no one reported him missing continues to elude investigators. His case stands as both a triumph of modern forensic science and a sobering reminder of how easily a child could disappear without a trace in mid-20th century America. The identification of the boy in the box marks the end of one mystery, but the beginning of another. As detectives work to bring Joseph's killer to justice, his story serves as a powerful testament to the perseverance of law enforcement and the relentless march of forensic science. After 65 years in the shadows, Joseph Augustus Zarelli has finally been given back his identity. The next chapter in this haunting case will determine whether he can also be given justice. As the investigation continues, one can't help but wonder, is Joseph's killer still alive somewhere, watching these developments with dread? Or did they take their dark secret to the grave, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a small boy who waited 6 decades to tell the world his name? The woods in Fox Chase are quieter now, the cardboard box long gone, but Joseph's voice, silent for so long, is finally being heard, and it may yet lead to the truth.